take off that medal before speaking to this court." The judge's voice echoed, sharp and cold, across the crowded courtroom. At the witness stand, an old man stood, hands trembling ever so slightly. On his faded blue blazer, right above his heart, gleamed a silver star. The room shifted uneasily. Some people lowered their eyes, others smirked. The old man said nothing. He just met the judge's gaze, without defiance, but with the weight of years behind his silence. A hush fell over the courthouse, not because of the case, a simple dispute about a property boundary, but because of who was standing before them. Word had spread, not through headlines, but whispered from one neighbor to another. He was here, Joseph Emery. No fanfare, no family by his side, just a worn blazer, a weathered pair of shoes, and a medal most had never seen in person. The judge, Harold Whitmore, was a man who valued order above all. Decorated medals and war stories held no sway in his courtroom. He entered from his chambers as he always did, stiff, efficient, unsmiling. Yet, from the moment he sat down, his gaze was drawn, unblinking, to the shining silver star on Joseph's chest. As Joseph was called to testify, the judge made his demand. "Before you begin, remove that medal. This is a courtroom, not a parade." A pause, so long and deep you could sense the collective intake of breath. Joseph didn't move at first. His eyes, heavy and unwavering, locked on the judge's. When the judge, unused to resistance, repeated himself more sternly, Joseph's hand moved, slow and quiet, to the pin. He unfastened the medal and placed it gently on the wooden ledge beside the microphone, like a flag folded with no ceremony. He sat, hands folded in his lap, the silver star lying silent and out of place, a symbol dimmed, for the moment, by a man in a black robe. The courtroom was still as Joseph began to speak. "State your name and occupation for the record." "Joseph Francis Emery, retired, former aircraft mechanic, United States Army, 1st Cavalry Division," he answered, not with pride, but with the unyielding truth of someone who'd seen more than most could imagine. Questions came and went. Joseph's answers were clear, measured, and unflinching. The case, the land, the easement, palpably faded into the background. All attention rested instead on the way Joseph, stripped of his medal, answered with a dignity that needed no decoration. At one point, as the questioning folded back to routine, the judge seized the moment. "This is a courtroom, not a war memorial," he announced. "We deal in facts, not sentiment." People shifted. The words, meant to reassert control, only deepened the discomfort. Then, from the very back, a man in full military dress stood. He hadn't been noticed before, but he radiated quiet authority. The ribbons on his chest shimmered, and among them shone the Medal of Honor. He raised his hand. "Permission to speak, Your Honor." The judge bristled. This was highly irregular. "Unless you are counsel or have been subpoenaed." "I am neither," the man replied, steady and calm. "But as a veteran, I will not be silent while another is humiliated for serving his country." A hush thicker than any before fell over the room. Other veterans, scattered through the gallery, rose in silent recognition. The judge's control ebbed away, shifted to the man in uniform and the truth he represented. "This," the officer continued, carefully lifting the silver star, "is not jewelry. It is not decoration. It's a grave marker that happens to shine." He turned to Joseph. "You did not remove this medal. You surrendered it." A simple embrace passed between the two men. No words, no spectacle, just the bond of those who have carried burdens together. The officer turned to the judge, a sternness in his voice. "You've embarrassed a war hero, Your Honor. The consequences are already on their way." As he exited, one by one, people in the courtroom rose. No applause, only silent respect. The judge, stripped of his power, sat diminished. The hearing ended early. By day's end, word of what had happened had spread far beyond those four walls. By the week's end, it became a national story, a reckoning about honor, respect, and the quiet power of those who have served. Judge Whitmore never returned, his name quietly removed, his career ended by the same silence he tried to impose on Joseph Emery. Joseph never sought attention, never spoke to the press. He simply went home, the silver star now resting on a wooden stand, not for glory, but to remember those who never returned. And far beyond that small town, the story lived on, a lesson that sometimes what truly matters doesn't need a ruling. All it takes is a uniform, 5 quiet words, and the courage to stand tall for what's right.